So I've had a lot of twists and turns to this journey. It has not necessarily been linear, but I definitely would say it has been vertical and very rewarding, very satisfying. So scaling's always a little challenging. It's always a little gutsy. You have to really pay attention to your intuition on making those decisions. And those are the decisions that can really make or break a small business, I believe. If you're in the service industry and you're offering a service that requires your presence, then you really want to just find your paradise and set up shop there.
Welcome to the Founder's Hustle, where every business has a backstory. And I'm so thrilled to be talking to today's guest, Dr. Carrie Sands. I personally have known her and been friends with her for over 20 years. We first met at a business networking event, but I knew right away the moment I saw her that we were going to be friends. And the reason why is because I saw the hustle, I saw her enthusiasm, I saw her passion, but most importantly, and you're going to see it today, the infectious personality that she has. You are going to be thrilled at hearing her backstory. So welcome, Dr. Carrie Sands.
I got my cup of tea and I'm ready to chat.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it. So first question is, if you had to describe your entrepreneurial journey in 3 words, what would they be?
Oh, gee, that's a great question, Judy. In 3 words, I'd probably say that the last 25 years have been, which is shocking to say 25 years anyways, satisfying, for sure, satisfying, a very unique journey, not unlike anybody I've heard having the exact same path as mine, and unexpected, lots of unexpected twists and turns, all for the better.
Yeah, okay. Paint a picture about the uniqueness. Why do you say unique?
Well, I'm a sports chiropractor, and in that field is unique in and of itself. So I have not necessarily ended up in my journey in the exact same way I envisioned it to be when I graduated from chiropractic school. So I've set up and run business in many different types of institutions and different types of models, and from very small to scaling up very large, and in 3 different cities and 2 different states. So I've had a lot of twists and turns to this journey. It has not necessarily been linear, but I definitely would say it has been vertical and very rewarding, very satisfying. So you never know how the book's going to be written, but it sure is fun while you're on that journey and the chapters are unfolding in front of you and taking the twists and turns that they have.
I absolutely love that analogy. And speaking about uniqueness, I remember you setting up a practice in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but then also practicing out west in Denver and even being with professional sports teams. Tell me about that.
I originally, when I graduated in chiropractic school in 2001, I went into practice out in Colorado because, the decisions we make when we're 25 years old are really based on, following bands and deciding where you think the best hikes are and where the cutest guys may be. So I packed my little car up and I took off from Iowa and headed out to Denver, Colorado, where I said, I know I'm going to practice. So although I had a fantastic time in my 20s in Denver, I originally got into this field under the tutelage of one of my mentors, and he was practicing back in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and had always wanted me to come back and be part of his practice. So fast forward 2 years where I've been in practice, and I'm starting to realize the importance of mentorship and realizing that would really benefit me on my career path to spend some time with my mentor. Now that I had been out there in the field, I made the decision to relocate back to Michigan. And I practiced under his tutelage for several years. And ever since then, I've been out on my own. And this has led me to run multidisciplinary practices with several different practitioners, private practice, solo practice. I've practiced within multidisciplinary institutions, and I've worked for many different teams throughout my career.
So knowing how successful you are today, tell me about your childhood. Did you see yourself being an entrepreneur when you were younger?
Judy, I never really did. First of all, I probably didn't know what the word entrepreneur was back then, but interesting. I was always interested in the healthcare field. So if, as a teenager, I probably always aspired to be a doctor of some sort. I really didn't grow up in the chiropractic model or the holistic model. And I was not raised by entrepreneurs. I was raised by teachers. So I definitely like the teaching aspect of my career. And doctor means teacher in Latin, if you didn't know that. So it's kind of
Aw.
interesting because I really do love that part of my job of actually teaching people about healthcare and wellness. But the entrepreneur part really took me by surprise. In fact, I never actually put that as a goal of mine to be an entrepreneur. The only reason I ended up becoming my own boss in this field was because I had a very specific vision on how I wanted to practice. And I could not find that type of model anywhere. So I had to go out and do it myself.
And dive a little bit deeper in when you talk about your specific model. I know what you do is rather unique in the chiropractic world, but maybe expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So I'm a sports chiropractor. So what a sports chiropractor entails is you're getting your bachelor's degree in a health and wellness field. Mine was in biomedical science from Western Michigan University. And then I went on to receive my doctorate of chiropractic from Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa. And then I moved on to receive I'm a certified chiropractic sports physician. So that is a postdoctorate degree that allows us to sort of specialize and put our focus on helping athletes. I've gone on through the National Academy of Sports Medicine to receive certifications in performance enhancement, injury rehabilitation and prevention, and sports nutrition and psychology. So this has set me up for a field to be a team doctor, to be working with athletes. I have worked with every level of scholastic in the schools up to professional sports. So my background is mostly with the high school athletes. In Kalamazoo, it was mostly with the college athletes. And then in Denver, I was working a little bit with the professional sports when I worked for a company called Mile High Multisports. We worked with the National Football League as well as the Ironman organization. So I have had a really interesting career path. I now am in private practice in a small, absolutely stunning tourist town in northern Michigan, a harbor town known as Leland, Michigan. If you have never come here, I highly encourage you to come visit us. And we're in Michigan, we call this state the Mitten. And where I live is considered the top of the pinky. So that's where we are. And it's a beautiful town. It's right on Lake Michigan. And my niche now is helping the weekend warrior achieve their optimal performance. So the athlete that's no longer on their A game, that's now you're my target market. So I really enjoy everything that I've learned from working from that high level of elite sports and athleticism and bringing, what I really found, Judy, was a lack of flow down. So we have the highest, those professionals that really want to specialize in sports work their way up to working with the elite athletes. But, the elite athletes is less than 4% of the population. And everybody's really starting to take their health and wellness much more seriously. And we have really high expectations for what we want from our post-collegiate athletic life, right? We want to still be able to compete and excel, into our 70s and our 80s. And there's a real disconnect with the availability of practitioners to help those people that are athletes no longer on their A game, that are trying to stay in the game, that are trying to give it their best shot, and they want to continue to enjoy a sense of healthy competition and a wellness attitude. And they just need help on how to prevent those injuries, how to rehabilitate those injuries, and how to perform at their best. And that's where I come in.
So if you could rewind the clock and you just opened up your very first solo practice, it's the early 2000s. Carrie Sands is still in her mid to late 20s. It's day one, the doors open. Describe that feeling.
Scary. So very excited. It's very interesting when you first really get out there and start seeing your first patients. In fact, somebody did ask me that the other day, and I was trying to think if I could remember back, sort of like trying to remember your first kiss. Can I even remember my very first patient? But I believe it or not, I still do work with some of my patients that I saw my very first year of practice in Denver. So I still have chart notes on them back from 2001, which is really exciting to see how that has as time has progressed for both of us. But you're just full of knowledge and so excited to get out there. You just want to like scream from the rooftops. In fact, I think I annoyed most of my friends and family at that time because I just wanted to share everything I'd spent so much time and energy in school learning. And so then you have to figure out a way to create a system and to be able to work that system so that you can bring your skill set to the public in a way that's reproducible and effective. So those parts of learning the field were a little bit more challenging. I felt very prepared going into practice as a doctor. I felt very prepared as a clinician, as a primary care physician. I thought my diagnostic skills were really top notch. Where I could have used a lot more help were in the fields of communication and business. So I am very fortunate that the president of my chiropractic school had been a chiropractor turned entrepreneurial. And Guy Reekman, Dr. Guy Reekman, shout out to Dr. Reekman. He was a large advocate of the students spending as much time as possible in our free time outside of our curriculum working and learning on business. And he suggested several different business books. He gave us a lot of business symposiums that we could attend on our own time, because no matter how good of a producer you are, if you're not a good business person, it will fail. And this is why, Judy, they say that, what do they say? 80% of small businesses fail because a lot of times we get the actual producer. You always use the example of a baker who is doing a really good job and really can create a great product. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be great at running a bakery. So I have always said, on top of all of the medical anatomy and physiology that I've learned, I sure could have used a degree in finance, marketing, communication, law, human resources, because as a small business person, you have to be able to do it all, right?
Well, and a lot of that is, yes, you have your mentor, but a lot of it is learning on the fly. You learned on the fly. And that, again, that's where I met you, was at a business networking event. Tell me about, how did you, not knowing anything about business, but a lot about chiropractic and how to care for people, tell me about your marketing. How did you get your clients? What did that look like?
Well, let's flash back to those first couple of years in Denver, where I realized a lot of like-minded individuals like myself who are really sports-oriented and active, and we're all searching for that same clientele. We all sort of landed in Denver, right? And so one piece of advice I had been given or heard over the years is, "'Tis better to be a big fish in a small pond." But I decided to jump right into, the largest ocean of people. So there are hundreds of people practicing the way I was in Denver. So you really had to get out there. And I've been involved in everything from wellness workshops at a Ponderosa steakhouse, trying to bring patients in and show them what can happen using what are those called? The overhead. Remember the overhead projector where you put the clear piece of paper on the overhead projector? We'd be showing them what whiplash looks like, and we'd buy them their steak dinner. That was terrible. I also had I rented a kiosk in the mall. Shout out to Southwest Plaza in Littleton, Colorado. I was there on the weekends watching people with their gait and showing them how orthotics could change their life in a kiosk in the mall. So thank goodness those days are over. But I think I definitely have dug my trenches, as the saying says.
Well, and I think that's exactly right. There's so many people that don't understand the grit and the grind that goes behind building a successful practice. And I remember distinctively how hard you worked in the community, not knowing these stories, but it just shows the dedication that it takes to get things launched.
Yeah.
Now, one question that a lot of people have in their minds about starting a business is funding. People are scared. They don't understand their options. They don't know what it takes. But starting a chiropractic office is not cheap. Like, how did you go about the funding process?
Well, honestly, for the most part, I am on my seventh practice, all of which I've started myself. With that said, some of those are just shifts in their locations, and not necessarily, they were just expansions of the same. But as far as individual entities, this is my third complete individual entity. So I've owned two other practices, both of which I've sold and moved on. So I've had that experience. For the most part, in my whole career, I would say I'm about 90% self-funded. So I have shied away from taking out any loans as much as I could in order to build my practice. It is not very easy to get business loans when you are a doctor. So this is also why a lot of the doctors work for companies, because back in the day, you would see a lot more doctors that were self-employed and going out there. But because of the, uh, rather intrusive student loan debt that we carry as young practitioners, that can make it real hesitant from a loan standpoint. So if you wanted to do it on your own, it really was a lot of hustle. So with that said, shout out to my dad, who has probably spent numerous, if you could count how many nights he has been painting or putting in drywall or molding in my offices. One time I remember driving with a friend to downtown Detroit to buy lead so we could, have the lead there for our x-ray room. So the contractor would have the x-ray. And just up to a couple of years ago, my partner and I built out my current office. And we were working, building that out even on Easter Sunday, because we were opening the Monday after Easter. So we were painting well into the night on Easter Sunday. And you got to love it, you got to want it, and you got to be willing to work extra jobs. So my whole career, at different times, I picked up extra work on the side in order to self-fund my practices. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
It's been quite I have taken out a few loans over the years for equipment. So, an equipment loan, but not for running the practice. So I've pounded the pavement. Even when I decided to open this practice up here in this small town in this niche market, I still pounded the pavement. So it still takes a lot of just self-grit. And then I build my practice referral based.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I see it in you, and you're so good at it. That's what's crazy. You are so good at it. Was there ever a moment, though, that you just wanted to throw the towel in and give up?
Oh, 100%. 100%. As I told you when we started chatting today, the uniqueness of the path, the ebb and the flow, and we never know how our careers are gonna pan out, right? They have to mirror and reflect our personal life and what things are changing and flowing with our personal life. So again, it's never probably going to be this perfect trajectory. It's going to have a lot of ups and downs and twists and turns. So the one thing I always knew, and I credit this to my mom, she said, my parents who are teachers are very strong on the emphasis of education. And they said something that nobody can ever take away from you is your education. So once you have that degree and you have that know-how and I have the skill set to help people, nobody could take that away from me. So as long as I could figure out a way to open a practice and get patients in, I'd be successful. So you never really know how that whole path is going to work out. But I do know now that I've done it this many times that I could do it 9 times over again if I needed to.
Right. So what is one mistake that you made early on
Yes.
that still carries with you?
Probably I would say the majority of the mistakes that I would, class together would be everything having to do with scaling. So just trying to decide how to scale your business is always a little gutsy. And I'm sure your conversations with a lot of the entrepreneurs in all different kinds of fields can really relate to this. It's making these decisions. Should I go ahead and rep for this, a shockwave company? Should I carry this sports nutrition line? Should I bring this, passive service that could become a passive stream of income into my business? Should I hire these extra practitioners? Will I have enough manpower? Will I have enough space to scale my business? And how do I really want that to look? If there's any way I could go back and look at those mistakes and maybe learn from them or give some advice, would be to really try to have those visions as close to nailed it as possible and then fill in the blanks rather than being reactive to how the business unfolded, if you would. So scaling's always a little challenging. It's always a little gutsy. You have to really pay attention to your intuition and making those decisions. And those are the decisions that can really make or break a small business, I believe.
So talking about decisions, where do you see your practice going in the future? What are you working on now? What are you scaling at currently?
So at one point of my career, when I was really involved with the board of chiropractic in our state, I did receive an award at one point of being one of the busiest female practitioners in our state. So, I had gone after it in my late 20s, early 30s, as you might remember, Judy, because you were there supporting me all and being my friend through that whole stage. And as you might remember, that was rather challenging for me. It was a very busy time in my life, very successful and very proud of that, but also wasn't necessarily enjoying working at that level. There's also a time that as you said earlier, that I was running 2 practices in 2 states simultaneously for over 10 years. I loved that. There was a lot of benefits to the reasoning I was doing that endeavor, but also very challenging on my time and energy. So those things were rather challenging. Now I am running a private practice. I am a cash practice, so I do not participate with third-party payers. My practice is 100% referral in this small town. And so I've never had a more rewarding experience in practice than I'm having at the current moment. I'm the team doctor for most of the high schools in our area. So I love working with with these athletes and really helping to inspire them and answer their questions. And they're so interested in health and wellness and performance at that age. It's really rewarding. If I could just duplicate myself, I would like to be in the classroom with them and doing all the wet workshops and teaching them all, I try to make it to as many of their games as possible that I can. So I really do enjoy working at this level where I'm just a solo practitioner. I'm sorry, I might not have answered that question the way you asked it, but that I went off on a tangent.
No, everything was absolutely wonderful. I just didn't know. I mean, in terms of where do you see your business in the future?
Right. So I do enjoy this level. It's kind of the most dialed in that there's the least amount of X factors, if you will, when we are dialed in like this. I am quickly approaching 50, and I heard a great quote recently that 40 is the old age of youth, and 50 is the youth of old age. And boy, can I relate to that. So my job, I'm very thankful that it is so movement-based and requires such a high level of fitness and strength and mobility. But I do foresee a time that I'm not going to be able to deliver my product at the level that I am right now. So with that said, and the level of commitment I have to my every single office visit, to give them just the best I absolutely have in me. I don't know that I'll be able to physically do that job for very much longer. So I also, I'm really enjoying being able to diversify and speak to larger crowds. So I have moved into the online coaching industry, and the fact that I have developed a wellness workshops and a teach yourself some stability programs that I'm working on scaling and figuring out exactly how many modules. We are teaching online classes now. So I would like to see that I will always be involved in the running of an actual clinic, but spending half of my time working virtually and not in the hands-on arena with patients. So the world is my oyster in that. There's so many interesting innovations in healthcare right now, and how many people are, with our online virtual doctor options that we have. I'm not saying that right, but our ability to work with clients virtually has changed the whole industry. So I'm loving the ability to share the same message with several people at a time. And I feel like I can really see myself shifting a little bit more and being able to impact more people's lives this way.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the teacher in you gets to explore different opportunities, which is fantastic. But I have always said you are literally a walking textbook. You have so much knowledge in that noggin. So it's going to be so fun to watch your journey as you get the chance to spread that knowledge and help people. You're going to do wonderful in that realm for sure. What's the best advice that you've ever received or ignored?
I like this question because I think the best advice I've ever received that I wanted to take, but I did not take was, if you're in the service industry and you're offering a service that requires your presence, like mine does at the current moment, then you really want to just find your paradise and set up shop there. So that is changing now that we have this virtual models that we can work with. But for your actual service, like if you're a hairstylist or a chiropractor or a massage therapist or something that requires you to be, public facing, it would be ideal for you not to invest in building business if you might not stay in that location permanently. So that's the advice I probably didn't follow. I did spend a lot of time and energy and resources setting up practices in places I decided I no longer wanted to live in. And so that if I could go back, I'd probably want to really take that advice seriously and perhaps just associate as a doctor, work for different companies rather than going right into the entrepreneurial realm until I knew that this is where I wanted to put my flag down. Now that I've found my forever home, I'm loving that feeling of being able to this is my paradise. And that's why I decided to set up shop one last time and run one more private practice. And I just the energy of the fact that I have found the place that fits me perfectly, I think is one of the reasons that I'm thriving here so well. But the best advice I got was actually from my brother, who is a CEO of a company. And so he is very business minded. Unlike me, who was more of the doctor art mind, he had always told me, when you're building your business, you want to make sure that you can make it consistent and reproducible. So 80% of what I put my energy towards is systems and operations so that I can make my business consistent and reproducible. So my customer can really know what they can expect from every interaction with my company, and it's consistent and it's reproducible. And then 20% of that interaction, I want it to be unique and different every time I interact with my quote unquote customer, which is my patient. So we might each month we focus on something different, either a product or a service, or maybe a supplement that is appropriate for that time of year so that they're learning something new every time that they decide to use our services. So my brother's advice about operations and systems make or break a business. And then the advice I did not follow was just find your paradise, set up shop once, not 7 times.
Okay. So in wrapping up, if you personally, and this kind of plays into the 2 stories that you just told, but if you had to look a 24-year-old budding entrepreneur in the eye and tell him or her the best piece of advice that you could give, what would that be for somebody that's looking to start their own business in this day and age?
You're smart enough and you're strong enough and you can do it. You absolutely can do it. You don't have to have a degree in business. I've had only a 3-credit class in my whole career in business. I have more time in the books with cardiology than I have with business. And I'm not a cardiologist by any means. So you can do it. I love the name of your company, Judy, the Founders Hustle, because if you want to be a founder, you're going to have to hustle. So it's really great if you can, learn by working on a farm or working in a restaurant or somewhere where you can really learn, how to dig in. Elbow grease will just advance you so far. If you're willing to work hard, the world is your oyster. You are strong enough and you are smart enough and you can do it.
What great advice. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're such a pleasure to talk with today. And you truly are amazing and have just been the true grit, grind, and hustle, especially being a female. I think that you give a lot of power to other females to look up to you as to what you have done and accomplished. So yay. All right. So the best part, how? Give us a shout out. Where do we find you? Where do we support Dr. Carrie Sands?
Sure. Thanks. Well, my website's real simple, drcarrie.com. You can email me if you have any questions, if you want any advice about your own entrepreneurial journey. feel free to reach out to me anytime. We also have a private Facebook group called Dr. Carrie Coaches, where I do once a week, I do an hour coaching on a variety of wellness topics. And on Instagram at Dr. Carrie Sands.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to catching up with you on a personal level soon.
Well, thanks so much, Judy. Keep hustling.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.